So in a country that sends a couple $100 billion to war every month, we won't take care of our own people. We still don't have health care in America. Americans still don't have health care, a guaranteed health care. People don't. And if you think you have a good insurance program, go ahead and get really sick. And then tell me how good your insurance is. Go ahead, get really sick. Or get sick in a unique way.
Mm-hmm. Something you didn't see coming.
Yeah. Go ahead.
See how your Cadillac plan drives.
That's right. So Houston just started enforcing a decade-old ban on feeding the homeless. Volunteers are fighting back. Why would they be doing this? Why would they? Hey, by the way, fun fact: they started doing this. Law got passed. This decade-old law against charitable feeding was enacted to stop Occupy protesters.
Well, not officially, but that's what it did.
Yeah, to get them to stop occupying.
They covered it with like a nice cover story of just attacking the homeless.
They said it was. They said it was about attacking the homeless.
Even a good thing like that has an ulterior motive.
So that was really for Occupy, but now they actually are bringing it back for the homeless. Now they're actually for the thing they claimed it was for.
Hey, so Alan, what are we doing here today?
Well, today we are sharing food with friends that we have donated and gathered from people who were donating to us.
And what's up with these 4 cops back here?
Well, they're trying to intimidate us. They don't like us sharing food in front of the library.
On average, we feed over 100 people, and they just sit out here and stare at us for the whole hour it takes to assemble the food that we make for the community and public, and then they ticket us.
These guys, huh? These are winners. It's still amazing to me that Americans have a positive view of cops all the time. It's because they have to, I guess.
Do you think they're just, though, in particular, these Houston cops, a little on the Steven Seagal end of physicality, let's say? Do you think they're just against healthy fruits and vegetables?
That's what I think.
They want to bust it like it's meth?
Let's do some quick math, says Terrence. The average cop's salary is $80,000. There's 4 of them there, so that's $320,000 in cops. The standard equipment is $3,600, so there's 4 of them, so that's $14,400 in standard equipment. The police cruisers, those cost $80,000, so times 2 of them, that's $160,000. So if you add that all up, that's $494,000 a year to intimidate people handing out food to those in need. Are you sure it wouldn't be smarter to spend that money fighting food insecurity instead? Like, why wouldn't you take this $500,000 and just help give food to people?
Because then you're feeding an addiction. They're just going to want more food later, Jimmy. That's how addiction works.
Houston Food Not Bombs, which has been around since 1994, has now been ticketed at least 30 times for sharing free food with unhoused neighbors. Each ticket is $2,000. It specifically says feed homeless on the citation. Wow. Well, maybe has this group thought about losing the offensive anti-bomb rhetoric in their name? I mean, what is it with this racist attitude toward bombs?
Yeah.
I guess bombs all look alike to those guys, huh? I guess we'll just get rid of all the bombs and we'll have some fascist food utopia. Grow up.
Probably doesn't even know the difference between a fat man and a little boy.
Here, you want to see? Here we go.
I'll see you tomorrow. Probably you too, huh? See you guys in the morning. All right, thank you.
Wait, first of all, those cops are physical specimens, aren't they? Aren't they? Look,
maybe they were chosen specifically for this duty.
These are cops. Of course they're coming to the food thing. Of course those are the cops they send to ticket people for handing out food.
I mean, I gotta believe, if not all of them, at least half of the cops that were there are embarrassed to be there. They got a very embarrassed look on their face. Not a lose my pension, I'm gonna not do this, but
they still do it.
Definitely like a grade down lower than pot bus.
Like this is...
So I'll see you tomorrow. Probably you too, huh? See you guys in the morning.
See you tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Can you explain to us what just happened?
I just got my 11th ticket for feeding the homeless, and this is number 30 for Food Not Bombs.
Cool. We're in front of the public library, which says that we don't have the right to, be here. And, we're conducting a food service event without the consent of the property owner, and it says, in parentheses, feed homeless. Wow. A specialty law that is being forced specifically just on us. It's wonderful. So we will continue to protest until there is change.
So Ben Kraft's sedan pulled up to the downtown public library on a recent Monday evening, packed with pasta and serving supplies. Kraft was on his way to pass out fresh vegetarian meals to those in need, something volunteers have done there for nearly 2 decades, 4 days a week. People had already formed a line down the block which faced the same park as City Hall when he arrived. 2 Houston police officers approached him as he got out of his car. Officer Jeff Richard showed him a warning printed on a sheet of paper. You run the risk of violating the law, and asked Kraft if he wanted it. Kraft shook his head. Richard smiled with a little nod. That's fine, he said. You have plenty of copies already. Volunteers giving out free meals with the organization Food Not Bombs have racked up 40 tickets, seeking more than $10,000 in fines since March 1st. The Houston law that they are charged with violating, an ordinance against giving away meals unless you have permission from the property where you're doing it, even if the property is public, was put in place by City Council in 2012, but largely had gone unenforced for over a decade, municipal records show. The current administration's decision to enforce the ordinance sent ripples through Houston's extensive network of Good Samaritans. Some have quietly pulled back from their work. Other groups have relocated to a Houston Police Department parking lot just outside of downtown, which was recently designated as acceptable public location for charitable meals. Wait, what?
Yeah, police department. Just make your way to the police department from wherever you are.
And that would be handy because, right? At the police station, you could probably identify people for old drug warrants and stuff, and you can pull them out of the food line and you can get them in jail.
Yeah, or you can
everybody wins.
You at least make sure to keep track of all their faces so you have a record of them. You know, they don't go online enough, so how are you going to track them?
But in an emailed statement, a city spokesperson explained that the meal program Houston is funding at the police parking lot is designed to use food to attract people to a place where they can engage with an array of services on a recurring basis.
An array, like being sprayed down with a fire hose like Rambo in a cell?
What are those array of services? In an ongoing federal lawsuit over the ordinance, the city said the ticketing was part of Houston's governmental obligations to ensure food safety. To people like Marion Dansby, who was waiting in line for Food Not Bombs, the motivation behind the citation seemed less about the quality of the meals. The volunteers were piling plates high with strawberries, blueberries, salad, pasta, beans, and stewed potatoes, and more about moving homeless people away from desirable locations.
Houston was afraid they weren't getting like good nutrition from the food.
That's what they're saying.
Or it's like
that's what they're saying.
Contaminated. Okay.
I get it, she said. She's been the nearby library historic Julian Ideson's building rented out for beautiful weddings. She's seen the nearby library's historic Julia Ideson building rented out for beautiful weddings. But at the same time, she thought the work being done could also be seen as beautiful, fit for the steps of nearby City Hall. Why fight over this, she asked. This is what people are supposed to do. Hey, I get it. Who wants to have their special wedding day ruined by something as gross as people feeding homeless people, right? I mean, come on, we're trying to eat over here. Clinton Ards, 51, often woke up cold or soaking wet in a state of confused unease, surrounded by metal bars. Then the pieces would click together in his mind. He was sleeping outdoors in the safest spot he could find, a little used corner of Tranquility Park near City Hall, where a metal gate provided some protection. His mornings weren't always like this. He once worked 12-hour shifts securing heavy loads to cranes as a rigger. But small fractures in his heel cost him his career and his secure housing. Oh, my God. On Tuesday evenings, he volunteers to help the Fazi Fellowship, a group of Muslim volunteers that used to serve outside of the library. Now the Fazi Fellowship is one of the charitable groups that serves in the city-designated police parking lot. The first time Arj went to the new location, he looked up and noticed a row of barred cell windows overlooking the site. He had once spent time in one of the cells for a drug charge and figured they were part of the reason the city had decided to make the lot the designated location for meals. If anyone trying to get a meal acted out of line, he reasoned, they'll take you around the corner and take your ass to jail.
It won't just be a ticket?
Oh, so look, I was right.
Yeah.
That is what this is.
Why would anybody want to come to the police?
Why don't you want to come to the
people on the fringes of society not want to come to the police parking lot?
The night after police issued the first ticket to a Food Not Bombs volunteer, Philip Picone tossed and turned in bed, questions running through his mind. Should he volunteer the next day as he usually did? What would happen if he had to spend a night in jail? Who would take care of his bird and his dog? Then he thought that's exactly what they want to happen, scare people out of showing up, and suddenly there's nobody there feeding people. He went the next day and received a ticket. For Picone, Food Not Bombs work resonates with his Catholic upbringing. Share your food with the hungry, says Isaiah 58:7. The group, which has over 1,000 chapters around the world, according to its website, picks up vegetarian donation from places like Whole Foods, then prepares and distributes the meals. Foods Not Bombs frames the act in the language of activism against society's moral failings. We are not a charity, but dedicated to taking nonviolent direct action. When the charitable food ordinance passed in 2012, it drew widespread protests. 34,000 Houstonians signed a petition asking the issue be put to voters as a way to repeal the law. From the outset, Food Not Bombs considered a civil disobedience as a way to fight the law. Ultimately, the mayor at the time, Anise Parker, gave permission to Food Not Bombs to continue giving away meals outside the downtown library. And the city did little to designate feeding spots or give out tickets. Now the battle over Food Not Bombs feeding in front of the library has entered the courts. In Florida and Las Vegas, similar Food Not Bombs cases against city, somebody has a joke about this, about feeding people, feeding the homeless, and they're in jail. Somebody has a funny joke about this. Dave Reinitz, I bet, is the guy. City rules limiting food sharing in parks were decided in Food Not Bombs' favor. Oh, really? In the case of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, an appellate court said the organization's food sharing was expressive conduct protected by the First Amendment. The publication Florida Bulldog reported that the case cost Fort Lauderdale taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. Why not use that money to feed the fucking homeless?
But it was worth it. And they lost. I like it's the First Amendment, and to that I say freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of reach. If you say that, you're a piece of garbage.
Yes. By the time Picone went to the municipal courthouse for his first hearing, he said conviction had replaced his anxiety. He could see the police station and its parking lot from the courthouse steps. I think this needs to be exposed to the people of Houston, what's being done in their name. People living on the sidewalk outside the Beacon, a day shelter, said they've noticed a drop in Good Samaritans since the ticket started. Samuel Butler Jr. motioned at himself, then at a neighbor. I'm diabetic. I have to eat. She's pregnant. She's eating for two. What is this? Why are you doing this? There they are.
Hey, look at that diverse mayor. It's almost as if it doesn't make a difference how diverse the leadership is. You still get the same nonsense.
It is nicer when an African American is screwing over the homeless people, isn't it? Doesn't it make it feel nicer? No,
I mean, I know it makes a lot of white donors feel nicer.
Certainly does. Our country is over. I don't know if you've driven around our
NATO?
country.
What country you live in?
But it's over. And now China and Russia are going to work together with Brazil and South Africa and India, and the petrodollar is going away, and all the things you thought Trump was going to do is being done now by Joe Biden and the grown-ups.
Here's when it dawned on me that it's over, is when Aaron was hosting and we watched a Vice undercover video of them going to Cuba to show you what a hellhole Cuba is, and walking down the city streets. And now, back in the day, I probably would have, an old 50s car. They're walking down the streets, and I'm like, where's all the homeless people? It's so unbelievable to not see people laying all over the street that I was like, what, you can't afford it, Cuba?
You can't afford to have homeless people? So there's no homeless people in Cuba?
There was no one. It was like, how are they even playing this? I live in LA. You're going to show me a video of a magical place with nobody on the street? Are you joking?
Everybody has education.
A place I never thought good about.
And everybody has health care. In fact, they export doctors all over the world from Cuba.
Well, I'm sure they got a lot of their making it look better, but guess what? Even with their fakery, you think that's not better than people in the street?
Hey Siri, does Cuba have homeless people? Hidden homeless in Cuba, the Borgen Project.
Oh, they hide them in shelter?
It's a where
they hide them?
They hide them in houses.
That's the whole thing. They're not hidden.
It says Cuba currently enjoys a near zero rate of homelessness. This is primarily due. Come on. Oh, it didn't open. Oh, wait. Okay, here it is. Through massive construction boom under the Castro regime beginning in 1959, housing has been an integral part of Cuba's social and political issues. So there you go.
Well, that's why we should never do that.
So Castro gave everybody housing, and that's why you can't have that.
Look at him trying to hide his homeless problem away inside of housing.
Typical. That's that Marxism.
I've never been pro-Cuba in my entire life, and how do you deny the very obvious thing? You drive through downtown LA and look at that.
So the whole idea is that Cuba is socialist, and socialism doesn't work. Well, if it doesn't work, why do we have to sanction them?
That's my question.
Why can't we just let their economy crumble?
It has never worked anywhere, and yet we've just lost random trillions of dollars fighting a thing that doesn't work. That's weird.
Come see our live shows. We're going to be in Chicago, Rosemont, Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, New York City, Pottstown, Pennsylvania, Stamford, Toronto, Toledo, Detroit, St. Louis, and more. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets.